The hardest things can be beaten by things that don't fight back. What doesn't fight back can get in where there's no room. Few people in the world can understand what it means to teach without words or what non-action. Lao Tzu. There is no proof that he really existed, but if he did, it would have been between the 5th and 6th centuries BC, which would have put him in the same time period as Confucius. Still, the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu wrote the Tao Te Ching, which is the most important book in Taoism. Wu Wei is a well-known idea from Taoism. It can be translated as non-action, effortless action, or the paradoxical action of non-action. In the real world, Wu Wei can be thought of as the state of flow, which athletes often call the zone. When athletes are in the zone, they don't have to try hard to do what they're doing, and they move through time and space almost without thinking about it. There are no extremes, no worries, and no thoughts that keep going over and over. Everything seems to go in a natural direction. I'd like to show you the philosophy of flow as an introduction to the beautiful Taoist tradition. The Tao Te Ching is a piece of art that is hard to understand. Not only can people not agree on when it was written, but they also can't agree on who wrote it. Still, one thing is for sure. The depth of this work has left a mark on the world even today. Not to mention that after the Bible, the Tao Te Ching is the most translated book in the world. Living in harmony with the Tao, which is also called the Way, is at the heart of Taoist philosophy. What is the Tao then? We can't really answer that question, and it wouldn't help to try. Our understanding of the Tao is only as deep as our ability to see. No one really knows what the Tao is or how it looks, feels, smells, or sounds. Lao Tzu also says that the Tao we talk about is not the real Tao. So, the famous first sentence of the Tao Te Ching is, "The Tao that can be put into words is not the same as the eternal Tao. The name that can be said is not the name that will last forever." So, what kind of information is there about the Tao? Well, Taoist philosophers say over and over that the real Tao is an all-encompassing force that we can't understand and that we can't feel with our senses. Even though we can never fully understand the Tao, the goal is to live in harmony with it. This is a lot like how Stoics view nature. So, how do we live in line with the Way? There isn't really a good way to do this that can be found in Taoist writing, but there are many signs that tell us we need to quiet our minds, control our senses, be humble, and stop trying to get what we want in order to understand how the universe works. This stillness of mind doesn't mean that we have to close our eyes and sit down somewhere. The Taoists notice that stillness of mind can be combined with action, and if we are completely in the present moment, our actions will go smoothly, without friction, and with a razor-sharp focus, so much that it's almost like being happy. Bill Russell, a retired pro basketball player, says in his biography, "It was almost like we were playing in slow motion. During those times, I could almost guess how the next play would go and where the next shot would be taken." In the Taoist work Zhuangzi, there is a story about a cook named Ting who works in a state of flow while doing his job. This caught Lord Wen's attention, Hui's, and he was amazed at how elegantly the cook cut up oxen. When he told him how skilled he was, Cook Ting put down his knife and said, "I don't care about skill. What I care about is the way, which is more important than skill." When I first started butchering oxen, I could only see the ox. I stopped seeing the whole ox after 3 years. And now, I do it with my spirit instead of my eyes. Perception and understanding have stopped, and the spirit moves wherever it wants. I work with the way things are naturally made. I strike in the big hollows and move the knife through the big openings, so I never touch even the smallest tendon or ligament, let alone a major joint. The state of the knife that the cook uses is an important part of this story. He said that good cooks change their knives every year because they cut, while average cooks change their knives every month because they hack. Cook Ting, on the other hand, had used the same knife for 19 years because he knew how to use it well. This story is related to another important Taoist idea, the power of being gentle. If we try hard and force things, we might get the job done, but we waste a lot more energy than we need to and might cause other problems. On the other hand, someone in a state of flow approaches a task with intelligence, knowing when to act and when not to, and finding a balance between action and non-action. It comes down to not being too hot or too cold. It's the best way to get from being worried to being bored. The idea of not doing anything goes against the Western ideal of forcing and working harder and harder to get results. We are told to work hard, be ambitious, and take charge. At the same time, a lot of people have problems with depression, anxiety, and sleep. Are we going to burn out? Passivity is looked down upon, and we often mistake it for being lazy. But these are not the same. When we look at nature, it becomes clear that doing nothing makes a lot more sense than we usually think. The amount of work we put in does not equal the results we get. Results are what happen when you do a series of things. The funny thing is that many of these things happen naturally, and a task doesn't need more help from a person than is absolutely necessary to get it going in the right direction. Don't many problems just go away on their own? Taoism says that life is like a river. The river already has a path or several paths, and once we're in it, we can swim against the current, hold on to a branch, or let go and go with the flow. We swim against the current most of the time and don't even know it. Our mind thinks that it can and should control the environment in order to stay alive, which is kind of self-centered because we can't control most things that happen inside and outside of ourselves. I mean, let's face it, we don't have control over things like how our bodies digest food, move blood, or heal wounds. We don't have power over other people or the future. Even who we fall in love with and who we find attractive is out of our control. Everything outside of our own minds and bodies just goes somewhere. Sometimes because of intelligence, but mostly because of the way things are. When we go with the flow, we are in sync with the way things are meant to be. This is the path with the least amount of trouble. It lets nature happen without us getting in the way. So, the Taoist way is to go with the flow of the river rather than trying to control it, which will never work. The water itself is another part of the river that shows what Taoism is all about. Water is soft and humble, which are two qualities that represent Taoist virtues. Here's what the Tao Te Ching says. The highest good is like water, which helps everything without trying to beat it. It gathers in places few people go. So it's kind of like the Tao. Even though water is soft, it can break down things that are hard, like rocks. And water doesn't just go to the lowest places. It also doesn't have a goal or a purpose or anything it wants. Still, it feeds everything it goes by. It's an amazing life force that does God's work, but it doesn't have any goals. Water is the most flexible and soft thing you can find. But water is the best way to break through something hard and rigid, because nothing else can compare to it. If you've ever been in a state of flow, you know that one thing goes away and doesn't come back until the thinking mind takes over. This is what it means to put more emphasis on results than on the task at hand. This reminds me of the Stoic idea of amor fati, which says that you should accept the outcome, no matter what it is, and worry about the present instead of the future. Whether you're completely into sports, writing, a video game, or dancing, when you're in flow, you forget about the results, the pressure, your worries about the future, and your mistakes from the past. You are alone with the task at hand. You are living in the present moment. And there's only one way to do this: let go. When you let go, you stop swimming against the current and let go of some branches. It means letting go of the past and the future, putting all of your attention on the present moment, and just living it. We're glad you watched.